Hey, what's up guys? Chief Pat here, and today bringing you guys a brand new Clash Royale video. And inside of this video, I'm going to be covering the balance changes coming out tomorrow inside of Clash Royale that will be hitting your guys' devices. So I thought I would go through each and every one inside of this video. There's some pretty interesting changes, including the Royal Giant, Freeze Spell, Furnace, and a couple of other things. So let's go ahead and check them out. Some of them I really like, some of them are a little bit sketchy to me, and we're going to go ahead and tackle them one by one. But first, apologies about the lack of videos. I'm in Korea right now for some pretty cool stuff. There's actually going to be a live stream tomorrow where I'm facing off against some Korean players, which will be crazy. If you guys follow me on Twitter, I'll definitely keep you guys updated there, but let's go ahead and get right into the action. So first of all, they're going to be reducing the damage of the Royal Giant by 4%. When I first saw this nerf, I thought it was a little bit of a joke. It's obviously not going to change too much with the Royal Giant. It'll make it, I guess, a little bit less annoying to deal with, but they did say inside of the post for the Royal Giant that it's going to only rein him in a bit and they're going to continue to keep an eye on him. So I would imagine that this is just a holdover. They're going to see how people adapt to the Royal Giant changes because it's only been out for like 2 weeks and people are constantly evolving how to face it, whether it's with the mini P.E.K.K.A, which is a great counter to the Royal Giant, the cannon, of course, right next to it. A lot of people have been playing and that's what I use inside of my deck, but the cannon I'm going to talk about more inside of this video. So we'll see what happens with the Royal Giant. I don't expect it to change anything though. I know 4% is only like 10 damage per hit, which really isn't going to change me using the deck right now at the top. So Royal Giant changes a little bit negligible, but we'll see what happens going forward into the future. Now, speaking of nerfs, there was a huge nerf to the Freeze Spell, which is going to be a duration decrease of 1 second across all levels. So this makes it so, especially combinations like Hog Freeze at lower levels, when you only have like a level 1, level 2, level 3 Freeze Spell, are going to be pretty significantly worse because reducing it by a second across the board means for the lower level free spells, it's going to be pretty tough to pull those off now. Whereas for the higher level ones, if you guys have a fully maxed out free spell, if you're one of the 5 people with a maxed out free spell watching this video, then of course it doesn't affect you as much, but it is still a pretty significant nerf. So with this, I would expect that the Zap combined with the Hog is going to be definitely way more popular than Hog Freeze, especially at lower levels. I know on my second account, I just started playing Hog Freeze for the first time, and of course, they nerf it right away after I post like 2 videos on it. So Freeze definitely going to be taking a backseat inside of this next update, and we'll have to see how it changes the meta, especially down in lower arenas. Now, a really interesting change came up to the Furnace. The Furnace overall was a pretty big failure of a card. I didn't see a single person use it in any of the battles that I played since the update. That's both on my level 6 account as well as on my level 13 account. Again, I have not seen a single person play it due to the fact that it's a little bit too weak. So what they did is they changed the elixir cost from 5 to 4, as well as they reduced the hit points just a little bit, and they decreased the lifetime from 50 seconds to 40 seconds. So this is a pretty significant rework of the card. Obviously, it wasn't working at the 5 elixir price point, so they reduced it to 4 and reduced it a couple of stats along with it. I think it's a pretty good change. Obviously, they needed to make changes to it. Personally, for me, I think the fire spirits that they spawn need just a little bit more hit points, because I know right now, I played it on my level 6 account, and if I faced off against a level 7, the fire spirits would get one shot by the arrows from the towers. So I think that it's good that they're changing it around. We'll have to see if it solves the problem with the Furnace about how valuable it is compared to other spawners like the Goblin Hut, which is really strong right now. So we'll see what happens with those changes. Now, next up is the fire spirits I just talked about. They made an awesome change which I really like, and of course will help out the Furnace as well. And they increased the area damage radius by 25% for the fire spirits. So if you guys have used the fire spirits, they don't always destroy a clump of minions, they don't always destroy a clump of barbarians, but increasing the area damage radius by 25% means it's going to be so much more powerful against those big clumps of units. So I really like that change, and it should tilt a lot of people to use fire spirits instead of a couple of the other smaller cards like spear goblins, or whatever like that. So I really like that change. Hopefully people will start using it, especially against things like barbarians and minion horde. That is an insane elixir trade. You're spending 2 elixir to kill a 5 elixir of troops. So really nice change right there, and definitely a thumbs up for that one. Okay, so guards, another one of the new cards that haven't been used that much. They decided to increase the hit points and damage by 8%. They said it was because of low use rates across the board. Personally, I think the guards are pretty average right now. They serve almost the same I guess, task as the barbarians for stuffing things like the P.E.K.K.A, stuffing things like the Prince, and the barbarians just do it a little bit better right now inside of the current meta. 8% damage and health increase should help out a little bit. I still don't think that they'll be super common. They could be depending on where the game goes, but I still think it's like a perfectly balanced card, and it just depends on where the meta heads for the game and what different strategies are strong. I don't think the guards are the strongest against Royal Giant, against Hog Riders, and a couple of the other cards, but I definitely expect them to pop up sometime soon, so we'll see what happens as the game progresses. Now, one of the crazier changes inside of this update is going to be a buff that they gave to the miner. Now, I don't know if you guys know, and I don't know if this is common right now, but one of the best 3 decks in the entire game, in my opinion, involves the miner. You use the miner, mini P.E.K.K.A, and Spear Goblin push, or miner, mini P.E.K.K.A, minion horde push, and you put the miner in the back and let the mini P.E.K.K.A and the surrounding troops attack the tower. It's extremely difficult to deal with. It's the only deck that I think counters the Royal Giant deck that I run, and they decided to give the miner a 6% hit point increase, which in my mind is absolutely insane. I think that the miner was a card like the bomb tower where people didn't know how strong he was just yet. For example, the bomb tower for like 2 straight months was broken, but no one was playing it because other cards were strong. But the miner, even though the miner's only been out for like 2 weeks, 2.5, 3 weeks, they decided that they're going to give it a 6% increase buff, and I think inside of this next balance, that the miner is going to be the most broken card inside of the entire game. If you play a miner and you bring a zap with you, there's almost nothing that can counter it extremely well. You can play some cards, but you're almost guaranteed to get some damage off. I know a lot of people are calling me crazy. I said it on Twitter, and not everyone believed me, but guys, I think some miner decks are going to be extremely annoying to deal with, especially for people who don't have the miner and are playing against it. They might get a little bit frustrated. I already think the card is really strong right now, and the 6% hit point increase, while it might not seem like a lot, is going to be extremely annoying to deal with. So these miner changes, I don't know what to say about them. I'll make a miner deck and I'll post it for you guys on my channel. I've already seen so many people playing it at the top, and I'm sure it's only going to spread as this change goes into effect. So 6% buff to the miner sort of has me sweating right now, because I think that's going to be pretty much what we're going to be seeing for the next couple of weeks. Alright, so some changes to the Lava Hounds. They announced that the hit points for the Lava Hound was increased by 3%. The Lava Pups had their hit points increased by 9%. Obviously, the Lava Hound was a little bit underwhelming. I still think it was okay inside of certain strategies, but really couldn't deal with some of the good cards inside of the current balance. So giving it a slight HP increase, definitely giving a thumbs up to that. They also nerfed the Elixir Collector again by decreasing its hit points by 9%. Now, if you guys remember, they decreased the hit points, I think, by 20% inside of the last update, and they decided that it wasn't enough, so they shaved off another 9% hit points. This might be the change that makes it so the Elixir Collector no longer is really viable. If they make it so a Fireball can hit an Elixir Collector and get an even or a positive trade, that might knock the Elixir Collector out of balance. So this is something that we really have to game test and actually try it out inside of a battle. But if they definitely went overboard with the hit points, or if they nerfed it appropriately, because the Elixir Collector is definitely a really strong card right now, then this could mean the end of the Elixir Collector dominance that we've seen so far throughout the game, which of course I'm all for. I think the Elixir Collector promotes a certain weird, I guess, way to play the game, which I play with on both of my accounts. But yeah, 9% hit points, definitely a significant nerf right there, on top of the nerf that they already gave it inside of the last balance changes. Now, some really nice buffs to some of the beginning cards. They increased the hit points by the knight by 10%, as well as increase the damage for the bomber by 10%. As far as the knight goes, I think that he right now inside of the game is pretty poor when you compare him to the Valkyrie. You only spend 1 extra elixir and you get so much more value than a knight. As well as a miner is the same cost as a knight, and the knight only has a little bit better HP and damage, so I think 10% was definitely warranted for the knight. And then as far as the bomber goes, another card that the Valkyrie just currently outclasses, 10% damage should help him out a bit, so I definitely give a big thumbs up to both of those changes. Now, one of the changes that made people question a little bit was the cannon getting nerfed by another 5% hit points. They touched on the cannon inside of the last round of balancing, and they gave it a little bit of a nerf there, and they decided to nerf it again. And with the cannon being the premier counter to Hog Riders, especially inside of Hog Zap and Hog Freeze decks, this is going to be interesting to see how it plays out. Now, a lot of people were freaking out, saying that they can't bring, a defense that's going to counter the Hog Rider effectively now. I actually think that the cannon is used in maybe, like, who knows, 60% of Hog Rider decks, so people actually having both the cannon and the Hog Rider inside of it, they're going to have a harder time playing defense. So I'm sort of on the edge as far as the cannon goes. We'll have to see what happens when it goes live. Is the Hog Rider going to be too strong, or is the cannon nerf actually going to fight against those Hog Rider users who have their own cannon inside of their deck? So interesting change there. And yeah, another defense that they touched on was the Tesla. Now, the Tesla had its hit points increased by 5%. Personally, for me, I've dealt with the Tesla so many times that it's a little bit annoying, but I guess, you know, it did need a nerf, or did need a buff right now. No one was really running it inside of the game, so 5% makes sense. And then a couple of other changes that they made. The Golem and the Golemites had their hit points increased by 5%. I think that the Golem was actually a well-balanced card, and some of the top players were actually running a Golem deck that was really strong against me. So I don't know if, you know, maybe it's just the Golem wasn't in the meta right now compared to some of the decks that were going on, such as, you know, Barbarians are a good counter. Cannon's a pretty solid counter to the Golem. So who knows how the 5% will affect that. The Witch had its damage increased by 10%, and as maybe the worst card inside of the entire game, I definitely think that's a solid change right there. So it's better at taking out some of the like Minion Horde, Barbarians, some of those big units that the Witch should theoretically do well against. And then finally, two other changes. Skeletons are going to do 5% more damage and have 5% more HP, which is pretty awesome. Definitely going to affect Skeleton Army, the Witch, Tombstone Skeletons. Really love that change. And finally, hit points increased by 10% for the Tombstone for a number of buffs to Skeletons cards. So yeah, really cool changes inside of this update. I think the ones that we have to take a look at are going to be for the Cannon. That's going to be an interesting one. I also think that the Miner is going to be crazy OP. You heard it on my channel first. The Miner is going to be absolutely broken, and something that I will show you guys how to play. Hopefully you guys have one, and you struck gold with that 1% chance to get it out of a chest when you're free to play. But yeah, that is pretty much it for this video. Let me know what you guys think about the changes in the comments section below. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. Again, the changes come out tomorrow. That is on the 18th, Wednesday. So I'll definitely check it out as soon as it goes live. But that's going to wrap it up for this video. Until next time, I will see you guys later. Peace out.